So it's hard to believe that I switched from my Canon 5D Mark IV to the R6 4 years ago. In that time, I have been on quite a journey when it comes to camera gear. I started with just taking my EF lenses and using an adapter, and that worked for a while. Gradually started adding some RF lenses into my lineup. I feel like I finally arrived at my dream wedding lineup. Like, this is what I need to shoot the way that I love to shoot and capture a wedding day with my style. With an RF setup, this is going to be it. So I'm gonna go through each lens, when I use it, why I use it, and prioritize which lens I would recommend diving into first. So let's start with the lens that I use 90% of the time, I would say, and that is the 28-70 2.0 RF lens. I love this lens. I've done so many videos on this lens. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about this lens. It is nearly perfect. And it really took me from having a 50mm, 85mm, and a 35mm prime in my bag at all times to really just having this, and this when special moments arise. The reason why I love it so much, the reason why it never, hardly ever leaves my camera, is because it is fast, it is sharp, and you get the benefit of prime, the look of prime, because it goes down to 2.0, but you also have the benefit of zoom, but similar to the 85 look, or I can shoot at 28mm at 2.0 and have a very comparable look to what my 35 used to give me. So I basically took my prime collection that I used to use with my Mark IV, and I got it in one lens. So I'll gladly have a little bit of an ache in my hand from the weight in order to have it all in one. The one disservice of this is that it takes away compositional control, which seems good, but it actually can limit creativity because there's too many options. I have a whole video on that. Seriously, you should go watch it. It's linked below, because that is going to help you make a decision of whether or not you're ready for this. Okay, so there's that. Moving on, 85mm. I don't use her as much as I should, but when I do use her, it is pure magic. So I did a video kind of walking through, like, if you have 70mm at 2.0, do you really need an 85mm? This is an expensive lens. Do you really need the 85mm 1.2? Is it that big of a difference? You can watch the video and find out. But there's a reason why it's still in my lineup, if that gives you a little hint to where that's going. But I love this lens. This is, if you know anything about following the KJ way, how I do weddings, how I do my style, how I shoot, it's not long in our communities before you will see someone mention, like, oh, I bought the 85 because KJ raved about it. This lens, I don't think can be replaced. I use it for portraits, and really portraits only. And I pull that out. I pull this out when I have space to be able to have compositional control. So you gotta have space to be able to use an 85mm. And I also use it in settings where I feel like this is so epic, and I need to make it even more epic by pulling this out. So you don't have to have this to be a wedding photographer, like, not even close. But in order to replicate the look that I'm talking about, that has that tight compression and very defined layers that are so crisp and creamy, I have not been able to replicate that with another lens. So if you want that look, it will need to come from the source. Moving on, this is the 100mm macro, 2.8. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but there's also a video about this lens. And you're probably wondering, like, why do you seem so sad? It's just, I don't feel like it's very impressive. It's fine. It does just as good of a job as the 100mm macro EF version. I just switched to the RF version because it allowed me, getting rid of using my EF version, got rid of our adapter. And it's fine, it does the job, but it's nothing to write home about. So there's that. I use the macro for basically just bridal details, sometimes for tiny details like earrings or some close-up shots of, like, inside the rings, but mostly it's just the rings. Mostly it's just rings on the wedding day and tiny, tiny details. So I don't even use it that much. I use it one part during the day, and that is about it. It's a little bit unfortunate that I have to carry this thing around the first half of the day, and it's used for, like, one tiny piece, but I can't get that look anywhere else. Some people have said, oh, can I do a little adapter, like a macro adapter? And I wouldn't recommend that, honestly. If you're a full-time wedding photographer, I would not recommend that. So you do need to have a solid macro lens. And it's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with it. It's just, it didn't blow me away. I still sometimes have to put it on manual and manually focus when I'm really trying to be very close and very detailed to, like, focus on the prong of a ring. Sometimes it just can't do the job on its own, and it's faster for me to focus manually. So there's a video about that. You can watch that. It's linked below as well. Okay, so moving on to the last one. This is the 70-200 2.8 RF lens, and this doesn't get a lot of use either. However, it is necessary for ceremonies. If you are photographing a ceremony and it is a large ceremony and the couple is pretty pulled away from where you're standing, this is not going to be good enough to get those tighter shots of the vowels or the emotion. And so this is very necessary in those scenarios. Also, I use it for toast so that I can photograph the reaction of the couple and then maybe zoom in to find the parent somewhere in the room. So there are some wedding days where I walk away and I'm like, did I even use this guy? And then some wedding days where I used it 2 or 3 different times, and you know, it's definitely something I couldn't live without. So while these two are not my favorite, I will say that this one, I loved. When I unboxed this, I loved its size. If you know anything about the EF version, it's massive. It is so massive. It also is like a darker taupe color. It looks like dirty all the time. Anyway, I love the color of it. I love the size of it. So if you are a 70 to 200 lover, there's like a certain group of you. Some of you love and breathe like this is your lens, which is awesome. If you're wondering if the RF version is legit and you should invest, you should. I think you would love it. So I don't use it a ton because this is like my favorite thing ever, but it serves me really well during ceremonies and toast, and I would be nervous to not have it at a wedding day with me. If I was going to break down the order in which I would buy this lineup, I would start with the 28 to 70 2.0 because it's so versatile. I use it 90% of the time. Then I would use the 100mm macro because you need that for details. You could also use the length for ceremonies at first. Then I would purchase the 70 to 200 so you have the ability to really capture any type of ceremony, no matter how small or large the ceremony space is. Also great for toast. And then this would be, even though it's my favorite, it would be the end of the lineup because it is not necessary to capture epic photos. It's just, if you like the look and you like the feel of what it produces, you're gonna love having it in your camera bag. It just is my favorite. So we have a lot of videos about all of this stuff. We even have like a shootout video where I test all these different lenses in one setting so you can see the different outcomes and results. There are tons of resources linked below. Remember, like and subscribe so you don't miss another video, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.